Sorensen has served as Miami-Dade County Commissioner for District 8 for the past 16 years, Katie. Holy cow. See that. Her last day is November 2nd because she's moving on.
16th.
November 16th, excuse me, because she's moving on.
Not that she's counting.
University of Miami to do a wonderful project that she can talk to us about later. Katie Sorensen's going to say, this isn't the right solution. Vote no. We have Neeson Kasdan, former Miami Beach Commissioner. And Mayor of Miami Beach from 1997 to 2001. He's currently an attorney at the law firm of Ackerman Centrifit, and he's going to say, Katie's right. He's going to say, I agree with Katie. And then last but never least, on my list or on anyone else's list, Maurice Beret, who was mayor of the city of Miami. From 1973 to 1985, vice chair of Dade County Board of Commissioners from 1993 to 1996, and has such a long list of history of community involvement and participation. But what you may not know, that he's one of the best grandfathers grandchildren could ever have, and I know that because one of his grandchildren's here, Sonia Sukar, and I happen to have 3 of his grandchildren as well. So, this is a general description of how we're going to do this tonight. We have 4 wonderful guests. I'm going to ask each one to speak for 5 minutes on their position. And I know that sounds like a lot because it's 20 minutes, but if I'm going to tell these 4 guys to speak for 2 minutes, you know they're not going to speak for 2. So I'm going to be honest with you. They're going to speak for 5, and then I cut off the microphone. They're going to speak for 5 minutes. We're going to start with Katie Sorensen, and then we're going to go with Maurice, and then Neeson, and then Frank. And then after that, we're going to open up for questions from the audience. And if the questions seem a little lopsided, I will certainly step in and try to provide questions from the opposite end of the spectrum, because I see some of these faces out here, and so I don't know, I see a lot of yes votes out here, but anyway, I'll leave that to you. Commissioner Sorensen, you go first, because ladies should always go first.
Oh, well. But, you know, it's how the old adage is, sometimes the pedestal is also the shaft. Thank you very much, and thank you for moderating. It's great to be here with this distinguished panel. It's great to be here with my former colleague, Maurice Beret. And we're often on opposite sides of the issue, but you know, sometimes we're on the same side of the issue as well. And I think I'm on the opposite side of many of my UEL friends, and you are my people. I mean, throughout my 16 years, I've really appreciated your advocacy on behalf of our community and our environment, and you've always supported me when I was a candidate and as a commissioner because you trusted me to make the right environmental and land use decisions for our community. And that's exactly what representative democracy is. We elect good candidates to make the right decisions on behalf of our community. And that's why I'm against Amendment 4. Now, that doesn't mean I don't share your frustration, because this certainly is the year of the angry electorate. However, it also doesn't mean that I think that developers have that they have inordinate sway over the decisions made in the community and throughout Florida. I do think they do. I simply don't think that Amendment 4 is the way to fix it, because I think there are a lot of unintended consequences, and we need to be thinking about those as well. Now, believe me, I know the resources developers have. I can't tell you how many awful projects I've seen come in front of me, backed by high-priced lawyers and rent-a-crowds with matching t-shirts and all of that, extolling the virtues of some project promoting yet more urban sprawl. And I have felt the same frustration you have felt, as too few of our elected leaders have been willing to stand up and say no. So while I understand the intent, Amendment 4 with the requirement for voter approval on any change to the Comprehensive Development Master Plan is not the solution. Let's look at what the amendment won't do. It won't encourage smart growth that maximizes our transit infrastructure and protects natural resources. It won't stop the worst examples of urban sprawl that continue even through a real estate collapse. It won't stop the developers who currently have their way with way too many elected officials. Amendment 4 may force developers to spend a little more money on ad campaigns. Once their proposals to change the CDMP pass the commission, they'll have to go through the same step of buying an election. Instead of just renting a crowd to come to the commission, they'll have to pay for a campaign that talks about job creation or some other phony benefits the particular project has that they're advocating for. But rest assured, they will have the cash to turn out the votes to get those projects approved, particularly in our local elections where the turnout is under 20%. So Amendment 4 won't stop them, but it will stop the planning professionals. And there's one of them, there are a few of them here tonight. Jim Burley is here, Sabrina Masu from the county is here, and they know what planning professionals do. If Amendment 4 passes, any changes that local planning departments want to make to their own CDMP will have to go to the voters as well. That means that planning professionals who represent the public interest, who propose smart growth solutions and protection of natural areas, will be at a disadvantage. Because unlike the amendments proposed by rich developers, local governments will not have the funds to campaign, the funds or the campaigns behind their changes, behind the proposed changes, because we're precluded from doing that. In fact, the legislature passed a law saying that we could not have campaigns on behalf of those kinds of issues. So I think that the amendment is going to have the opposite of what's intended. The majority of our CDMP changes in the county come from our planning department, and they continue to update our master plan. These plans tend to be living documents, not rigid rules set in stone, and recent changes proposed by our planners deal with issues such as affordable housing, water conservation, greater protection of our parks, our natural, historical, and archaeological resources, and protection of agricultural lands. Those are changes that benefit our community. But there won't be any snazzy commercials or slick flyers or any of that to promote these forward-thinking growth policies. Most people won't even hear of them before they go to the ballot box. And the developers who oppose any restriction on what they consider their God-given right to develop any parcel of land as they see fit will run slick campaigns against them. So can you imagine trying to pass a CDMP change protecting agricultural lands? One side has unlimited resources to campaign against it, while we have no resources to campaign in favor. You know, there are people who think that we should vote on every issue, that there should be direct democracy instead of representative democracy. And if you think that's the way to go, just look at California, a government that's paralyzed by referendum. I don't think that's what we want to emulate. And I also don't think that structural change is the answer to a lot of our problems. We need to start participating in our elections that we already have. Turnout is, as I said, under 20% for local elections. Put another way, 80% of our citizens don't bother choosing the representatives, yet we all expect them to make responsible decisions for us. So, to me, that's real hometown democracy. Voting for good government. That's where energy needs to be focused. Getting good elected officials, getting people to run, getting people to assume the power that we already have, that we don't take advantage of. Let's pick trustworthy elected officials to make the right decisions and hold them accountable. And understanding that being a citizen is a lot of work, but when citizens are fully engaged and spend the time it takes to create the kind of good government they deserve, the rewards go beyond small land use decisions. They extend to a better future for our community, and that's where the attention should be. Thank you.
Thank you.
The way to stop the encroachment on agricultural land Katie's talking about is for the commission to say no, because that's what they can do today. Now, have they done that? Katie says, of course. It's about electing good people. Well, we have a wonderful track record of doing that in Miami-Dade County, right? And the commission has really voted right most of the time. Well, we need to go out and get more people to do that. Now, let me tell you about referendums and about representative government. And this is a battle that's been going on for a long, long time. It was Thomas Jefferson who said, there is no better depository for the will of the people than with the people. And then in 1912, I want to read to you what Theodore Roosevelt said at the Constitutional Convention in Ohio in 1912. And I quote, he said, "I believe in the initiative and the referendum which should be used not to destroy representative government, but to correct it whenever it becomes misrepresentative." So I ask you this question. It's very, very simple. Has elected government been misrepresentative of the people's will on the issue of urban plan and the urban envelope? And I don't think anybody is going to say no. Now, Katie, of course, says it's overkill and that we need to go in another direction. But look at who's paying for the no vote. By the way, they're up to $15 million. The Board of Realtors now has close to $5 million. Pulte and Lennart, who just took hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government so that they can survive, are putting in $500 million and $360 million the other. And you look and see at who the people are, and you know who they are? They're the speculators. They're the developers. They're the real estate people. This, ladies and gentlemen, don't make a mistake. This is about money. The issue is very simply money. But it's not the developers' money we're talking about. We're talking about our money. Because when we put these properties way out in the boondocks, which it takes an hour and a half to get from where these properties were approved that shouldn't have been built, in areas that are 3 feet below the water level. It takes an hour and 20 minutes to get from those projects to downtown Miami, or to the airport, or to the Civic Center where the majority of the jobs are in Miami-Dade County. So I ask you this question. Now you get a report from the Washington Economic Group, which says it's going to cost you $36 billion. We're going to lose 236,000 jobs. And so we the Yes, submitted the opinion of 2 economists from the University of Central Florida that said just the opposite. So the St. Pete Times and the Miami Herald went and they asked an economist at the University of Miami, at the University of Florida, and Florida State University, and they all agreed that all this information that was put out by my good friend Tony Villamil was totally unreliable. And here's the conclusion. It says, the opponents used a scary number of 34 billion in lost economic output based on the assumption